Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Cheryl Litzar, happy to be your co-host here and joined by my colleague, Fern Schellinger. We're happy to answer your job search questions as per usual. So, who has got a question they would like to kick us off with?
I do.
Okay, Mr. David, lay it on us.
So in some of your previous conversations, you had two really good illustrative, I guess, visuals of differentiation. So I can't remember if it was like the pink snowflake or something. I can't remember, but I think there were two of them that you had, and
Okay.
they were really quite good. And I thought if you could
Do you remember what I mean? There's a couple that come to mind, but I want to make sure they're the right topic. Is one of them about networking?
I think it was more of a general type of
But it was about purple. Was it goldfish and purple fish? Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And
Yes.
was the second? Okay. I'll talk about that. Was the other one called Lane and Community? But it was the goldfish, purple fish. That's the one you're talking about.
And there was one other, but that's the one that readily comes to mind.
Okay, I don't know what the other one is, but I'm happy to talk about the goldfish, purple fish. I don't remember the last time I talked about that here. Anyway, what David is referring to is this networking concept that I have, and it has to do with how do you distinguish yourself or needing to distinguish yourself in a networking situation. Okay, so here's the idea. And this is about networking within a group of people. I'm not talking about networking one-on-one. I mean, I am sort of, but this is mostly about a group situation. So whether it's a group like this or how, Steve and Alexander are in this technology group or whatever, but when you're in a group of people, here's a concept. I call it goldfish versus purple fish. Here's the deal. So good morning, Ty. So the idea is that whenever you are in a group, okay, the group has come together because everybody in that group is what I call a goldfish. In other words, something that binds them together. Today, other than me and Vern, what binds you all together and what makes you goldfish is the fact that you're all job seekers, okay? Or maybe you're in a networking group. Let's say for me, maybe I'm in a networking group of human resources professionals, or maybe somebody else is in a group of accounting professionals, whatever, okay? It's the thing that makes you all similar. However, every single person also doubles as what I call a purple fish. It's your unique distinction. It's your unique value in the group. So for example, when I am networking with a bunch of human resources professionals, in fact, that's how I met Vern many years ago. What makes me distinct, and frankly, what would make Vern distinct, we're similar in this way, is that we are also in the association community. So we were in HR, but we also have this association lens where somebody else in the group might have a corporate lens or whatever it is. It's the thing that makes us distinct in the group. So for example, if in a group of HR people, somebody had a question about associations, they might turn to the purple fish in the room, meaning me and Vern, and say, hey, tell us about associations. But conversely, right? Let's say I was hanging out with a bunch of association professionals, which makes us all goldfish. Somebody might turn to a me or a Vern and say, hey, tell us about HR stuff, right? It's the thing that makes you distinct. And I mention that because when you are networking, it's important to know the distinction of what connects you, right? Versus what makes you distinct in the room. Okay. So let's say all of you are let's say, Steve and Alexander are connected because of technology, but one of you is an engineer and one of you is a project manager. You'll be able to offer that perspective to the group. Does that make sense? So it's the thing that makes you uniquely distinctive. And it's important because when you are doing your elevator pitch, when you are in that room, you want to understand the similarities that connect you, but also you want to understand the thing that makes you distinctive, because when you're doing your pitch, you have to know who you're talking to. So when I'm talking about HR related information to association professionals, I probably can't use a whole lot of jargon, right? I have to speak in a way that they can hear. Vice versa. If I'm talking to HR professionals about association work, same thing. I probably can't use a lot of jargon. I have to speak in a way they can hear. Does this make sense? So you've got to really connect, make sure that you understand the relationship between yourself and the folks that you are connecting with. So any thoughts about that? Does this resonate with you? Have you related to this? And when you're in a networking group, have you seen how that is, where you connect on one level, but there's this thing that makes you special?
I think it's an excellent visual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vern, if you want to relate that to the work that you do in networking?
Yeah. So at Contacts Count, whenever you're having a conversation with someone, it's about teaching and giving, teaching the other people, to Shira's point, what's your expertise? What are you good at? What do you want to communicate to other people? What do you want to be known for? And at the same time, you need to be asking questions of them to figure out who they are and what they're all about and what's their unique skills. And it's that exchange of information that often leads to either finding something in common or recognizing, either one of you recognize, wow, this other person knows something about X and I really need help in X, and maybe they can, help me in X, or lead me to somebody who can help me in X. Or so that would be communicating your expertise and getting something from them. Likewise, listening to them and recognizing you have somebody you can connect them to help them in some way. Or as in the example of Shira, you're both HR executives. So now you're sharing best practices within HR, or you're discussing, I have this problem. How have you handled it? And all of that begins to build a relationship based on, over time, if you have enough conversations, it builds trust between the two of you. And that becomes a much more important relationship in your network, because once you get to that level of trust and understanding, that's when you become what we refer to in Contacts Count as advocates. You advocate for one another. You help one another all the time. You're always, if you see something, it automatically triggers something. So in Shira's example, we met, in probably the early 2000s through a HR forum type meeting that was once a month. I left DC in 2014, and Shira and I probably hadn't talked for 10 or 11 years, 12 years, 15 years. I don't know how long it was. And somebody on this call, who I was coaching, said to me, she said, Shira's losing her, her partner in this call, and I think you'd be great. And so I called Shira, and here we are. And I've been on the call now for 18 months or something like that. So, but the reconnection was very easy because we knew each other at one time very, very well. And we respected each other. We experienced each other's character and competence. Mm-hmm. And so those, what we refer to as dormant relationships in your network, are also an important aspect in the job search, to think about people you worked with, former bosses, former colleagues, to reach out to them and let them know you're in job search.
Yep. All that's important. It's all about networking. And think, you mentioned the dormant relationship. People sometimes think erroneously that, just because, you haven't talked to somebody in a while means that you shouldn't reconnect with them, right? Like, oh, it's been 5 years. It's been 10 years. I've lost the relationship. Not true at all. Not true. I've had situations where it's been 25 years, haven't talked to somebody, and it's that whole blast from the past. Hey, how's it going? Shira, what's going on in your life? Wow, great to hear from you, right? Feel free to reach out to people you have not talked to in a long time. If you left on warm terms, likely they are going to be delighted to hear from you, and you never know, that could be a resurrected relationship that could turn into something. You just don't know. I had a situation, and this was not a long ago, but just over Christmas, I was going through texts, and I was just, randomly just texting people, Merry Christmas, right? And there was somebody who, mind you, I had talked to her. I don't even know when I talked to her. It was It was a while, I hadn't seen her in a very long time. And she showed up, or she wanted to show up to one of my Boomer Works events. But I hadn't really seen her, but she was in my texting list, but I hadn't talked to her in a long time. I sent her a Merry Christmas. That sparked a reconnection. She comes back. She's like, oh, Shira, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes, by the way, I'm looking for a job and maybe I could use your help. And she ended up reconnecting with me as a client. Now, I did not reach out to her to get her as a client. I was just saying Merry Christmas. But her having heard from me prompted her to say, oh, I actually need you in a different kind of a way. You just never know, right? Do it for the sake of the relationship, but you never know how you can help them, how they can help you, how you can be back in a relationship, right? So I just always just reach out and use LinkedIn to do that. Always a good idea to use your LinkedIn, contacts, and go to your kit. In fact, let me just do that really fast. I'm going to pull up LinkedIn for you all. We don't do a whole lot of LinkedIn training here, but once in a while, it's a good thing. So if you go here to your, if you go here to your My Network tab, okay, you can see all your connections here. You can start searching, okay? So these are all of your connections. I would go ahead and just start doing search. You can search with filters. First thing I would do is I would look for people who do what you do. Those are actually the best people to start networking with. You might think of them as competitors, but they're not. They're what we call competimates or collaborators even, right? These are the people who might be hearing about jobs that are not right for them, but are right for you. And so you can hit the All Filters tab and you can go down, see the first connection is already connected, already checked. And you can go down here to the title. You can put the title here, or you can actually just do right in the search bar. But let's say you're a project manager and you want to look for other project managers. Right? So here you go, right? A whole bunch of project managers that are right here that are first level connections with me. And I would go down this list and I would say, who in this list are not only first level connections with me, but people that actually know me, like me, and trust me. So Christina, for example, would be one of those people. And if I was a project manager and I was looking to reconnect with people who do what I do, I'd reach out to her and say, hey, Christina, it's been a while. Let's reconnect. How's it going? What's going on in your world? Have a Zoom call with that person, right? Let them know what's up with you. They can let you know what's up with them. And you never know. Maybe they just heard about an opportunity through a recruiter that could be perfect for you. But I would start with the people who do what you do. And in that same category, people who know you, like you, and trust you. People with whom you already have a good relationship, because those are the people who are both capable of helping you and also really want to help you because you already have a relationship. You've built trust and also you do very similar things. So it's a beautiful marriage in terms of having people be able to want to help you and are capable of helping you. Okay. So I just wanted to share that really quick LinkedIn tip. Vern, did you want to share anything else?
No, that's again, you just never know where the opportunity might come from. And so it's, encourage you to, and the other thing about those dormant relationships, they've traveled a different path in these last 5 years or 10 years. They have new information. They've learned new things, and you don't know what those are until to reconnect with them. And like Shira said, it's really easy to just email or pick up the phone. Hey, John, it's been a long time that you popped into my mind the other day. I'd like to reconnect and just see how you're doing. And it's a simple, way to make the invitation to connect. And honest to God, 99.9% of the time, whenever I've done it or when anybody that, Shira and I have lots of people that have, we've coached and they've done it, and they come back and they say, wow, I had this great conversation, and so it's really something to
Never
think
know.
about.
You never know. Just because they're dormant, don't let them go out of your sight.
Yeah.
Anybody have any experiences that have worked for you like that, where you've seen it happen, where it's been a long time and you did that blast from the past conversation and then something good turned out of it?
I have one from about 20 years ago that we worked together would often go over to their house for supper, things of that nature. And over time, just lost track of them. And she worked at a company that I was targeting. So I contacted her, and not only did she help me with that company, but our old group had formed a LinkedIn group. So people that I worked with now had a group that I was able to connect with and get more leads.
Great. Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
You just don't know who knows who. All right, so we talked a little bit about networking. Thanks, David, for that opening question. Who else has a question?
Can I ask?
Yes, Tasif, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm currently right now I'm in South Asia.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat your question?
Right now I am residing in South Asia.
Oh, you're in South Asia, Southeast Asia?
Yeah. But I look opportunities in North America. So
Okay. Okay. How can we help you?
I mean, how could I get? I mean, can you just explain me?
So we don't have expertise in this group. We don't have expertise in helping people to get jobs here in the US because there are immigration and legal considerations around that. That's not our expertise. You'd have to speak with an immigration attorney to understand the legalities. There are things called an H-1B visa that you need to get. It's very complicated, actually. So unfortunately, we don't really have expertise in helping people to move from a different country here to the US. What we do in this group is discuss how to get a job here when you're here. If you've already have a green card or if you already have a US citizenship, but unfortunately, we don't have expertise in the legal aspects of getting a job here. So I apologize for that. But you're welcome to stay and listen to what we have to talk about. Okay, other questions?
I had more of a curiosity.
Okay, Jerry?
Okay. I saw a posting on LinkedIn about what it looks like in the back end for recruiters. And it made me curious about the process that once we submit an application, how does it travel to the recruiter and or the ATS? And
Great question. And as somebody who's posted on LinkedIn job boards, I can tell you exactly how it works. So what happens is it's the LinkedIn has its own, it's just like Career Builder, just like Indeed, it's its own portal. So if I post a job on LinkedIn, what I would see is when I go to the portal, I would see down the left-hand side all of the different applicants. And LinkedIn keeps that in its own portal. Okay, it has nothing to do with anybody's ATS, does not hook into an ATS that I know of. It's all there just as one place. And so I would just literally go down one by one, and I make a decision around if I want to talk to the person or not. It gives me a little button. Do you want to accept the person? Do you reject the person? Do you want to reach out to them? Do you want to send them a note? And then and then if I reach out to them, there's a thread that helps me keep track of the conversation back and forth. So I can communicate with the person back and forth right there in my LinkedIn portal, but it's literally all contained within LinkedIn.
so does LinkedIn rank them for you based on like number of skills match or anything like that? Or
Well, I think that they can. I have not had them do that. I actually don't recall whether or not they do that. My experience with it is just going from top to bottom and just quick. I just see who's there, and I open everybody up and just see if I want to work with them. But even if they were to do a skills match, I'll tell you that any good recruiter wouldn't probably focus on that very much. I will tell you though that with LinkedIn, is it LinkedIn or Indeed? And you have to tell me on your side. Maybe it's Indeed, where sometimes you can ask questions of the candidate. have you ever had that happen in LinkedIn where somebody will say, hey, before you apply, answer these questions? I might be confusing it with Indeed.
Yeah, LinkedIn does have discriminator questions.
Right. So I think what it is in both of those portals, when we post the job, we can actually put in some requirements and we can say, only give me people who, again, I hope I'm not confusing it with Indeed, okay? But either way, that in general, these job portals will ask us usually, hey, employer, do you want only give me people who have this requirement, like education or skill set, or have X years of experience, and then, oh, here's some questions. Do you want to ask questions of the candidate for them to fill out? Again, I don't remember. I know Indeed does that. I don't remember if LinkedIn does it, but we can typically set parameters to say either LinkedIn only give me the people who have this, or asking the candidate to answer questions, which will screen them in or out. But that's on us to ask you to set the parameters up in advance.
So if you have 1,000 applicants, it's up to you to go through all 1,000 and.
Yep. Unless you guys, unless we've actually told LinkedIn or told you in the application, hey, only apply, do you have 5 years of experience in this, or do you have this skill set? And then you say yes or no, and then LinkedIn will say, only give us this people. I believe LinkedIn does that.
And
right.
would it be similar then if I applied in your job, in your company portal?
Well, I can't speak to that because I'm not a corporate recruiter. So I don't use an ATS. So I don't know actually how. Fern, did you ever use an ATS?
Yeah, we used it at ABA. But again, the problem with not the problem, is the fact of nature. I mean, there's lots of organizations and there's lots of ATSs out there. So there are different organizations use different
Right.
ATS programs. There's lots of them out there that they can buy. So it varies, from organization to organization. But go ahead, sure.
Do you recall actually putting in any criteria when candidates would apply, where they're allowed to say to the candidate, do you have this? Do you have that? And actually force them to answer questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the applicant tracking system did do that, which, maybe rather than 1,000, Jerry, you got 200. That's still a big number to go through.
Right.
So.
Okay, but the ATS does filter them, if you will, or.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And again, the levels of sophistication in any ATS depends on how well it's programmed and how complex it is and so forth and so on. So, and I'm sure since I was in HR, the ATSs have taken leaps and bounds in terms of the technology and what they can do and what they can't do. And so.
Okay. Last question, Shira. Once you've decided in LinkedIn that, okay, these are the 10 candidates I want, how do you track them? Do you just stay in LinkedIn, or do you have some kind of CRM that?
Great question. I personally don't use a CRM because I don't need to, because my searches, I do the onesie twosie searches. I don't deal with hundreds and hundreds of people, right? That's just not me. I don't deal with a CRM. That's because I'm a solo. I have a special way of doing things. But for me personally, I have a little spreadsheet, frankly. It's just very simple. So once I make contact with somebody, first of all, I will sometimes push them toward email. It's a little easier for me because I have little folders in my Outlook. But then once I've actually decided to, literally schedule an interview with somebody, I have a little baby spreadsheet, name and the time and, some notes and, very, very simple, very rudimentary. I just don't need to use a CRM for that. And then I'll, of course, keep up communication.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ty?
One question.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Ty, do you mind if Tassif goes first?
Go ahead.
Tassif?
So, ma'am, how is it possible for me to use LinkedIn to get an opportunity over in North America? Is it possible for me to use LinkedIn? By LinkedIn, can I get some?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, all job seekers can use LinkedIn and should use LinkedIn to look for opportunities. And I would suggest that it's not just about using LinkedIn's job board. It's about networking with people. So for example, depending upon the profession that you're in, you would want to network with people in the US who do what you do so that they can possibly refer opportunities. Now, once you do that, if that company is open to somebody like you who lives outside the United States, they can let you know what the procedure is. If they are open to hiring somebody from outside the United States, you know, if there's immigration considerations, they can let you know that. But in terms of networking, absolutely, I would highly recommend that you use LinkedIn and again, use the search bar. So let me just go back in here. So if you just, and this is just a general search. Okay. So let's just say again, let's say you are a project manager and you want to go network with other project managers. You can just put project manager in the search bar. Then you would hit the people button. And here are all these project managers. Now, if there's certain areas in the United States that you're looking at, you can look at location. You can put in the name of the location here, but you don't have to. You can simply go person by person. I mean, there's a lot of people, right? But you can look at what that person does, see if they do things that are similar to you, and maybe they'll be open to connecting, right? And so maybe you can just hit the connect button and add a note and just say that you are, you know, seeking project manager opportunities. You notice that you have a similar background. Would this person be open to, you know, meeting with you and or at least connecting with you to keep you in mind for opportunities? So that's a very simple way of describing it. But the point is that, you know, using LinkedIn can be very, very helpful when you're trying to connect with people who could possibly help you. But again, I really would encourage you to look for the people who do what you do, because they're the best people who can say, oh, I heard about an opportunity. It's not right for me, but it could be right for you. Okay, so that's my simple explanation. I hope that helps.
And to the
Basically, you want to say me that I need to gain some network or connect people who are in US currently, right?
Yes, who are in the US and people who are in your profession. Because the people who are in your profession who work in the United States could know about opportunities for you because you do the same thing. So they could hear about an opportunity and it's not right for them, but it could be right for you. So network people in the United States who are in your profession to see if they can help you identify opportunities.
But let me just let me reemphasize what Shira said earlier about your status. You can do that on LinkedIn and they can say, yeah, there's a job with ABC company and you sound like you've got the skills exactly to do that. But if you cannot legally work in North America, the United States,
right,
then it's going to be a dead end. So even in if you do use LinkedIn and you do connect with people, I might tell them, you know, I really want to get to North America. You know, and in fact, you may find people in LinkedIn who immigrated from someplace else in the world and went through the immigration, you know, the process of getting, you know, the legal right to work in the United States.
I would also recommend that you talk to an immigration attorney where you are, so that they could possibly help and they can tell you about the legal needs.
They are not so trustworthy. I mean, feedbacks, I got the Google reviews of them. That was not so good. So that I could trust them. That's the problem.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Well, maybe you can find some people, if you can find anybody who works here, like Vern said, who immigrated, well, maybe they have a trusted immigration.
I understand. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Shira, let's let Ty go and then
Ty and then Anuja. Thank you.
Yeah. She's got a question about ageism. Or he did.
Anuja. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, Ty, to keep pushing off. It looks like Anuja had put this question in the chat earlier.
No, it's okay. Ty can go first. I can wait. Okay, thank
Ty?
you.
Sure, Ty.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I've been as people know, I've been out of work quite a while. My latest challenge is I'm managing my brother's affairs. He passed away. I'm finding it's like project management, got spreadsheets going, everything. Is this something I bring up in an interview?
That's very interesting. I would bring it up if it's relevant
Yeah.
and you're in the interviews. If project management skills are needed in that role, and you want to bring that up as one personal example, you certainly can, because sometimes personal life experience can be helpful. I wouldn't bring it up as the first thing, but if, but I don't, but look, Ty, you typically are looking for customer service roles, right?
Yes, yes, but
Have you encountered the need for project management skills in those jobs?
yes, somewhat. Just managing what customers need and networking with people within the company or just tracking things, that type of thing. Some of as the association world that I've been looking in, a lot of the association services jobs are somewhat customer service / project management.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, I would say this, the more important are project management skills you've built professionally. Okay. That's obviously what people are looking for. If on the side you want to say, and by the way, I've really been honing my project management skills on a personal level because I've been having to manage my brother's estate. You could put that as a PS. I wouldn't lead with that, but as a frosting on the cake, it's something that you could certainly put it in.
Well, also, this is like the first time I've managed in the state, so it's something new that I'm jumping into.
Yeah, and it's complex.
It's complex to some degree. Some people use attorneys. I don't think that I need an attorney at this point, but I think I can get through it, and follow the directions and move ahead.
Yeah, I would say if you feel like you're doing well in the skill set and it feels appropriate, you could toss it into the conversation.
Yeah. It could be the answer to, tell me about, a challenge you faced and what was the challenge and how did you do it? Now, it would be better, as Shira said, if it was a challenge related to the customer service in the interview. But if you can't come up with something, or maybe the question is, tell me about a recent example of where you picked up something brand new and you had to learn it. It might be an answer to that question.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Right, Anuja. So I haven't read your chat yet here, but I'm seeing here it has to do with ageism. Do you want to give us more color around that?
Sure, absolutely. One of the things is in your resume, you put your graduation date or you put your work history, which obviously correlates with, how old you are. So I guess the question is, even though it's against the law, right, to not hire people based on your age or back experience, I guess the question really is, how do you make sure that whether it's on your resume or LinkedIn that you not put the spotlight on when you graduated or how old you are, so that
this is the most common question that I ever get on ageism.
I'm sure.
The most common thing I have such a ready response for you. I should hit a tape recorder and play it for you. Okay. So here it is. Okay. So first of all, Anuja, for any person who is certainly over the age of 50. Okay. Never, ever put your graduation dates on your resume, period. Okay. So that's the first thing. Number two, same thing goes with LinkedIn. No graduation dates on your LinkedIn education. That gets cleaned up immediately. The second piece, though, is a little trickier. And that has to do with how far back you go in your work experience so that, right, people don't see how many years you've had. Ask different recruiters will have different, philosophies about this. My personal philosophy is go back about 20 years. Here's why. For somebody who is seasoned, for somebody who's especially if, and I don't remember what where you are in your career and profession, but for people who are looking for, people who are more seasoned, who are looking for higher level positions, I don't necessarily mean president or vice president, but seasoned, right? If you go less than 20 years, it'll actually make your resume look too light. If you put down 10 years, that may not be weighty enough, okay, for what you need. So I say 20 years is a good stopping point. If you need to put additional experience prior to 20 years, at the bottom of your resume, you can have a section that's called prior experience. And then you would list company title, no dates. But even then, that's still indicating that you have more than 20 years of experience. So be careful with that. I'd only recommend people doing that if you really feel like you have to. For example, if you started out in your career in something that you think is so relevant, like you really need people to know. For example, let's say you started out with working at Fortune 500 companies, okay? And then the rest of your experience, for whatever reason, was in the nonprofit sector. But now you want to get back into corporate America. You might want to have that prior experience to show people, look, this is where I started out. I actually have that experience. That's fine. One time I had a client who was a communications strategist, high level, and she got a Pulitzer, she won a Pulitzer Prize as a journalist way, way back. So she decided to put it down there because it was really important. Does that make sense? Now, but the tricky part is LinkedIn. In LinkedIn, you can't take off dates. You have to put a date next to your experience. So in that regard, you would go back to 20 years and that's it. You can't put anything else prior to that. Is that helpful?
Yes, and actually, I must have seen one of your recording because that last part you mentioned about putting at the bottom of your resume, just like title and the year. Because I did that.
Company and title, no
company
year.
and title, sorry, not year.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a follow-up and I just lost track of what I was going to ask you. Oh, and I just remembered. So the reason some of the ones I put down is it also shows your progression, your growth, right? So if you started out, say, I actually started out as administrative assistant, back in like the 90s and worked my way up to VP, executive director. So does that even matter? I guess.
No, not at the, in fact, if anything,
it also depends on,
that would be a distraction actually.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Progression only matters when it's within the relevant part of your career. So for example, let's say you were, my goodness, let's say you're a controller. Okay. It would be appropriate to say, oh, I was an accountant and a senior accountant and a but not that I was an administrative assistant, right? Because that part of it isn't as relevant. That said, if a person is an executive assistant, absolutely, administrative assistant, executive assistant to the CEO, right? So the progression only really matters within the lane, within the actual career path. That makes sense?
Okay. Ty, sorry, can I just ask another follow-up question? Is how long should a resume be? And I'm sure you've covered this.
I have a quick answer.
I've heard 2 pages minimum or maximum.
No. Okay. So here, not these days. 2 pages is nice and that's fine. I would not go 1. 2 is fine. You absolutely can go 3 these days. And here's why. You ever heard that old joke about the daughter who said, "Hey, mommy, why do we cut the end of the ham? Why do we cut the end of the ham off before we put it in the pan?" So they go to the mother and then why do we cut the, mom says, "I have no idea. Let's go to grandma." Grandma says, "I have no idea. Let's go to great grandma." Grandma says, "My pan was too small." Okay. So our pan was too small many years ago when everything was done by mail. Remember that? Look at the envelope, right? Or by fax. HR people, recruiters did not want to look at multiple pages. It was just too much. And you didn't want them to have to look at multiple pages. So we all came down to this idea of 2-page resumes. These days, everything is scrolling. Okay. Now, I'm not suggesting to have a 7-page resume. That's ridiculous. At least unless you are in education or in the government. Those two want 5,000 pages. Okay. So that's totally different. Then you have a CV, right? But a regular private sector resume, 3 pages, no problem. Because when I'm scanning down a resume, when I'm on page 2, I can go to page 3 in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter to me. But it does still need to be concise. So I would not go to 4 pages really unless you absolutely have to. Yeah. The only time that and actually without joking around, without any time that if you need to go to that, like, for example, 4 pages or 3.5 to 4, the only thing that's appropriate at that length is, let's say you have publications, presentations, lots of volunteer, something that is a laundry list of activities that is complementary to your resume, not the actual work experience, but those extra things, right? You have presentations, you publications, you volunteer, And all of a sudden, like you're in, like you have like a whole page of stuff just because you're that okay. But other than that, or and like lots of education and courses, fine. But in terms of your work experience, 2 to 3 is perfectly appropriate. Oh,
Okay,
one more quick
perfect.
thing. Remember I said
Yep.
government and education, like the long one, there's one more category, government contractors. Because government contractors are sending your resume to the government. They are very happy to have that 5-page, typically, that 5-page resume or whatever, because they need to be able to justify your background to the government, and the government likes to see every time you tied your shoelaces.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Ty?
I have a question related to ageism. You got the interview, you turn the camera on, you do the interview, they say, great interview. One of the people that interviews you might be half the age, and then crickets come out. How do you overcome that? I know previously you said something you can say, why bring generational diversity would bring generational diversity to your company or organization. So is there anything that can be said? I know enthusiasm and skill set are important. So is there anything else that can be done?
You can address it head on. And these days, I think it's kind of important to do that because it could be in the back of someone's head and they just don't feel comfortable saying it for obvious reasons, right? It's discriminatory for them to actually talk about your age. You're welcome to bring it up in a positive way. So like Ty was saying, you can say, you know, I have to imagine that diversity is important to your organization, right? And they'll say, yes, of course it is. And you can say, well, and you can smile when you say it. Well, as you can see, I would bring generational diversity, right, to the group, and they'll smile back, right? And say, you know, if there's any concern around that a possible generational gap, please know that number one, I'm a continuous learner. I'm very flexible. You know, I really want to be part of the team. At the same time, if I can contribute any mentorship to the next generation of professionals here, I would be very delighted to do that. So I'm happy to be in a mentoring role, but I'm absolutely delighted to be, you know, one of the team, and I'm very flexible. I'm open to learn and that kind of thing, right? So you can address it head on, but just make sure that you do it in a positive, encouraging way.
Would that be something you would do straight out of the blocks? If they say, tell me about yourself, or would you wait till
I
a
would
little bit
wait.
later?
I would wait. Yeah, you wouldn't have to, I wouldn't address it right off, because then that might make things a little bit awkward, right? To address something that they're going to be a little bit challenged, and they don't know you yet, right? You have to sort of build the rapport. I would address your skills. I would do all the normal things. And then when you feel appropriate, maybe it's midway through, maybe it's when they ask you, do you have any questions or anything, then you can say, by the way, I thought I would bring this up.
It's talking about the elephant in the room at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. I think just to add to Shira's point, I mean, they don't know you know as much as you know about them based on, you know, the job posting and everything else. You know, see how the interview is going, you know, and if you feel that there's great rapport and you feel like it's a pretty good interview, then certainly, and if it's something you're interested in, then absolutely you've got to, you've got to address that, because that's in their mind. I think I shared this story with this group at one time. My last job in Washington, D.C. Was with a major trade association, and the person doing the recruiting was a former boss of mine who actually twisted my arm to be a candidate for this search. And I told her at the beginning, I says, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I was 3, 4, 5 years away from retirement. Do I really even want to do this? Do I have enough gas left in my own tank to think about this? And she still twisted my arm. And I said, okay, I'll become part of the search. So now I become one of the 2 finalists, and the senior people who were making the decision ask her, well, how long if we make the offer to Vern, how long do you think he'll stay around? Because they could see that I wasn't 25 years old. So in the back of their minds, they were worried about how old I was and how long I would stay around. So it exists, unfortunately. And so that's why I said at the time, it's the elephant in the room. And to Shira's point, I think you really need to address it at some point. So.
I've heard interviewers say to me, you're overqualified. Is that a springboard to jump in about that?
Well, first of all, the overqualification is not necessarily age related. Please
Yeah.
know that. Okay. It really is just typically what that says. What overqualified means, just for the record. Okay. Overqualified in the employer's mind means we believe you are going to be bored in this job.
Yeah.
Period. That's exactly what it means. You have so much experience that you're going to come into this job. You're going to look around and say, really? I could do this with one finger tied behind my back. And then you're a flight risk. And then they're afraid that you're going to leave quickly. That's literally what it means.
So it goes back to what Cheryl always says about the employers minimizing the risk.
Yeah.
You know, they want to minimize because that's a risk. That's the risk they see.
That's right.
You're so overqualified, you're going to get bored in this job, and I'm going to spend time training you, and you're going to get up to speed, and then you're going to leave.
You have to have a really good story around that. And there are good stories around, look, there are absolutely people who've said, I've been to the top of the mountain and I am not looking for that level of leadership anymore. And in your case, Ty, of course, it is that story. I really found that customer service is my wheelhouse. It's what I love to do. I don't want to be a director anymore. I really don't. But you have to really convince them hard that you're not just randomly applying for some customer service job because you just need a paycheck. They want to know that you really want to commit to this for the long term. That's a story that has to be said in a very convincing, authentic manner for them to be like, okay, this person is a different stage of life, different stage of needs. We believe it. Okay, fine. We'll let them, we'll take a risk,
Thank you.
Nisha? You had a chat question.
Yeah, I don't want to dominate the conversation here.
Okay.
But another thing I thought of is I've done some like video interviews, and recently I did something called Nonprofit Executive Spotlight, where this individual basically asks you a question about opportunities you're looking for. So it's almost like a job interview, but it's really not. It just tells you, it's like your resume via video. So the question was that I put in the chat is it okay or appropriate to put video links?
Oh, wait, is this Cecilia's thing?
It's Cecilia's, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking. Yeah, that's a very unusual situation. Yes, I think that's perfectly fine. So
Okay.
what Anuja is talking about is in the association community, there is a consultant who has been very kindly interviewing job seekers who are in the nonprofit and association world. And she literally just does a little Zoom video. You see her picture, you see the other person's picture, and she basically has this person say, the job seeker say, hey, this is what I do, here's my superpowers, that kind of thing for however long it is, I forget. And it's just a recording, and she gives it to that person for their own branding. That's unusual. I don't know of other sectors that have somebody like Cecilia who does that. So
I don't believe there are
very unusual. And I think in this particular unique case, she did it for you. So to help you, absolutely. I'd put it on your LinkedIn profile. Absolutely. Okay. And you can put a link to it in your resume if you want, maybe, I don't know how you want to phrase it. It's very different, but, yeah. learn more about me, learn more about my career competencies in this link, in this video link.
Okay.
That
Perfect.
would be
Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, you could even do that at the very top of your resume where you have name and you have phone number, email, LinkedIn profile, and then maybe your line right below that. Learn more about me with this video link.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I mean, in this case, it's if you're looking for a nonprofit association role, right? Obviously, if you're not, then you probably should leave it out.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
That was an interesting bit of advice. Is everybody looking, does everybody need a social media streamer, video type marketing campaign these days in the job market? Not a bad idea.
I would, it's interesting. I don't know if I'd use the term need, but could it be helpful? I think so. Is there an opportunity for somebody, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Alexander, you entrepreneurial person, to create? You're entrepreneurial, aren't you?
And just a little background there, Alexander. Just a little background on that, Alexander, that Cecilia is she works in the association, but she's also a consultant.
Right.
And so what she does is it's almost a way of helping somebody, she asks you a question, but it's a recording. So if you don't answer the question properly, or you hesitate, she stops the recording. So it's almost a way of practicing your interviewing skill, but it also spotlights, who you are, and in a much more of a, and you can watch the recording, and there's other recordings as well. It's a YouTube channel that helps you also hone in your interview skills. So just a little background. Shira, didn't mean to
No,
interrupt,
please,
but
I honestly am intrigued and want to know more. So,
well, so
okay.
what if we do this? So Anisha, if you wouldn't mind chatting
Sure.
Alexander that link? Because Alexander, again, you and Stephen have that group, right? What if
absolutely.
what if one or both of you, or even maybe on that call, figured out a way to interview people in a similar way, just to
Yep.
give each one of you a branding opportunity? Maybe one of you takes the lead, or maybe you alternate, I don't know. One of you becomes the interviewer, like the Cecilia, then the other person does their little pitch, record it, put it in the can, and then it's a deliverable that each person can use in their job search.
Yeah, well,
If you-
what was going on in my head is, and Joa said, or no, actually, Shira, you said that they would stop the record.
And
No,
there's just,
Joa said
yeah, they would
you
stop the recording. Yeah.
and then start again. It's like, no, don't stop the recording, keep going, and then edit it in DaVinci Resolve, like I do now and then. So yeah.
Or if you hesitate in answering a question, she'll just say, instead of just keep the conversation flowing, so that in a way, like I said, it's practicing, but it's also spotlighting yourself in a way that you come across as just polished, positive, and the conversation, the questions just flow. So I'll send you a link, Alexander, separately, so that I don't, bother everybody, or bother everybody with it. But and then there's
that's what chat's for. Yeah.
There's tons of other recordings in there, so you can feel free to listen to all of them.
Good. Glad that little tip came out for those of you who may want something like that. Yeah, it's an interesting, concept that she's got going, and all kinds of things you could do with it. All right. Other questions, other thoughts? Oh, and let me just remind people, every once in a while, I will show this to where to find the recording of this meeting. You would just go to this link. Hold on. Okay, so for those who are watching this on video, you would go to purposefulhire.com and then go to the Hire Moment Mastermind tab in the upper right. And well, of course, if they're watching this video, they probably have seen that. And then all of the the links are here all the way back to when we started in August 2020. Okay, so just click on a link and there's the video. All right, any other questions? Okay, we can go ahead and end a couple minutes early here. For those of you who would like to stay on the prayer call afterwards here, you are certainly welcome to do that. And otherwise, look forward to seeing folks next Friday. Okay, have a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Shira.